Good evening. We're going to call to session this work session for July 29th of 2021, 7:00 p.m. of the Perry Township Board of Trustees. Ms. Grow, will you call the roll, please?
Trustee Mears,
Yes.
Trustee Wynn,
Yes.
Trustee Hartshorn.
Yes.
So the first topic to address is the ARP funds. Trustee Hartshorn, I'll let you take the ropes on that since you've done the webinars.
All right. So basically, there's a approaching window to submit for funds from the American Rescue Plan. Perry Township has been identified to receive, basically there's 2 stipends that'll be awarded. The total amount for Perry Township is $352,696.82. The first tranche is $176,348, and it cut off 40-something cents. So the window for this to sign up for it, I think it's in August, by August something. The state recommends everyone basically take this.
Right.
It's less restrictive than the initial CARES Act funds. And these funds are good through December 31st. I want to say 2024, might be 2026. So it's meant to catch up any past due expenses to date, and then any future expenses between now and the end of the period. So this money can be spent to support public health, lost wages, mortgage and rent assistance, water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure, which is big right now. The state just approved that the state's going to be putting money, grants towards infrastructure for broadband as well. Let's see. So they talked a lot about using this money to help small businesses, nonprofits in our community. Also helping teachers that work in the community that either had to come out of pocket for funds or may have lost funds, lost pay during that time. They highly recommend hiring a dedicated person to work part-time to manage this because the audit requirements are somewhat high, but they're not unreasonable. It takes more time than probably a fiscal officer has in addition to all their other duties. And part of this fund is meant to basically pay for that person to manage this process for us. Let's see. Set up a group and task force to assess the township needs for the funds. So basically, we would work out a way for people to submit to receive funds, grants, or other from the township. And we would have to prioritize and figure out how, between the 2 tranches, how we're going to levy those funds. It also includes what they call digital literacy training. You can pay for training for your residents to become more aware. With COVID-19 and everything shutting down, people having to be more dependent on the internet access, general PC knowledge. They want to close that gap with both training as well as stipending broadband to try to get their goal is to get broadband every household in the state. They did mention that failed septic systems that are impacting clean water can receive these funds as well. If there is an issue with that, they said that this will be part of the information. They were sending packets out to all the fiscal officers in the state in the next week or so. So those should be coming and lay out more of this. An example that they used for helping save wastewater and groundwater is rain barrel giveaways. They mentioned using the money to buy a surplus of rain barrels and giving them to residents who want them. Part of this would be finding out what do the residents need help with, right? This was just an example, you know, if you wanted to be proactive and you know that it's a problem with water wells, groundwater, water runoff in the area, that can be used to offset that. They also mentioned what they call a premium pay, that we can look back and basically our police officers worked during that period. And this money can also be used to give them a fixed percentage of premium pay. It's similar to hazardous pay. They recommend, if this is something that you're going to look into, that you come up with a fixed percentage. Example they gave was 2% of their salary and pay that as a one-time. And then moving forward, if the need arises again, being able to pay that more regular as the need arises. So a lot of this, they're really pushing hard with the webinars and getting the information out there because they fought really hard for townships to be able to use this money. Townships weren't included in the initial House bill that was signed by the state. They had to work out, and I believe townships are considered, it's a non-something entity, which has, so the different municipality sizes based on income, based on population, townships, they kind of figured into a separate group to be able to do this. And the state and the county already calculated out, like I said, what our total amount would be in the first tranche and the second tranche of payments. So with that said, we need to figure out what our approach is going to be. And this is purely for discussion purposes. There's no action being taken this evening. Just to talk through, do we want to establish a committee? Do we want to investigate bringing someone in part-time to manage this with the audit requirements, the documentation that's required for the use of every cent?
Yeah, I have someone in mind potentially to bring in to manage if she'd be willing to do that. I think this would be right up Kristen's alley because she managed to run other nonprofits, the 501c3s. That might be something.
We could definitely look at that. I mean, I would say that we would probably want to put it out there that we're looking for this help and get us.
And you're not talking all the time, you're just talking a couple hours a week.
And basically,
Well, exactly, and for this project only.
It would be solely for this project, and although the project can run for multiple years.
Well, we have to have it, from what I understood, all the money has to be committed by 2024 and expended by 2026.
That's correct.
So
the first part of this is basically paying for anything that's been spent today.
Right.
Right, getting that one-time catch up, whether it's with the police, whether it's with grants with the residents, small businesses, nonprofits in the area.
And I also heard through the grapevine that later on, hopefully, there will be other things added on that we will be able to use this money for.
Exactly.
Like,
Just like,
it's gonna end up like the CARES Act, where
Right,
they're going
exactly.
to eventually open
Yes.
it up to other things.
Yes.
I had a couple questions that I couldn't figure out from the PowerPoints on the webinar. I'm trying to find it, remember what all of them were. So on the permissible uses category, it's that assistance to underemployed or unemployed workers or assistance to households such as rental utilities. So we would have the funds and individual homeowners or households or whomever, they would apply to us for that?
Yes.
Is that what I understood?
so the way that they define this here, I'm just gonna, they refined a little bit the wording of the eligible uses. Support public health expenditures by, for example, funding COVID-19 mitigation efforts, medical expenses, behavioral health care, and certain public health and safety staff. Address negative economic impacts caused by the public health emergency, including economic harms to workers, households, small businesses, impacted industries, and the public sector. Replace lost public sector revenue using this funding to provide government services to the extent of reduction in revenue experienced due to the pandemic. Excel template with revenue, they have a link here. The Excel template with revenue reduction calculations required by the ARP Act can be accessed, and they provide the link. Provide premium pay for essential workers, offering additional support to those that will bear the greatest health risks because of service and critical infrastructure sectors. Invest in water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure, making necessary investments to improve access to clean drinking water, support vital wastewater and stormwater infrastructure, and expand access to broadband internet. So there is additional guidance that's coming out on as they kind of flesh these out a little bit. And both the OTA and the state, I believe it's the Secretary of State, they basically, part of the links that I sent out to the trustees and the fiscal officer include a number of links, both for the portal for the application, facts and questions, as well as information as it becomes available. Because they're really pushing to use this money to help the residents of Ohio get back on their feet and fix core infrastructure issues.
Do we have any idea, Jason, when? I know you said the August, sometime in August was the deadline. Do you have any idea when we should accept that?
It has to be in by September 4th.
First installment?
So I would
I
expect
think that was coming
shortly
out in the
after.
stuff they were saying to the fiscal officers.
First report,
The first report is due October 21.
yeah.
But is there, can some of it be used for township funds?
No,
It's strictly for the residents.
strictly to be used, it cannot be used in any township project. It can't be put into any fund. It has to be spent explicitly by the rules that they've laid forth and how it has to be used. So they've made that very clear repeatedly that this can't be put into any of the township funds. It's going to be used to build buildings or purchase property or stuff like that. It has to be within the letter of what they've defined for this, and that was defined at the federal level.
And we'll need to get potentially another bank account just for this fund, right?
Well, I think yes,
Yeah.
we just set up a fund.
I would say it probably because of all the guidelines and restrictions that it's gonna have to be kept.
Its own fund,
Right.
okay. And you will check that out.
Okay, according to here, it says that the verification process takes approximately 4 business days. So once we submit, unless there are any errors or anything that needs to be corrected in the process, we could be looking, a very quick turnaround in getting funds.
Okay.
And they have said that if there are issues with using the portal to sign up, that both the state auditor's office as well as OTA are available to walk people through it. Because they said that, there will be bugs, there will be issues, and they're here to help us get through it.
But pretty sure with that, we have to kind of have an idea already what our intent is with the funds, because I think that has to be submitted as part of it as well.
Right, so we would prioritize the initial need, right? What would be, so the first tranche is, the maximum first tranche is $176,348.
Right.
So out of that, we have to get an understanding of what the need is in the township. And try to work through that process, establish an ability to prioritize, a process for prioritizing those, addressing definitely our police force,
Right.
And I'd also like to find out if we know of citizens in the township that say need their septic fixed and replaced because it's been an ongoing problem, or yard care, or porch repairs, or all of the above.
But there again, does it have to be COVID?
Well, so that's what it
That's
was
where I
saying,
was going. Does it have to be
With-
COVID
with this-
related, or can we
not necessarily,
make those suggestions for that resident?
because they made a very clear point for the infrastructure components, water, sewer, and broadband, that if a septic system has the ability to affect groundwater,
Yeah.
it fits. So they didn't want to just put it out there and say, hey, you get your septic system done, but they understand that, especially, so the sewer component is more for the cities, large municipalities. But being able to do septic, they wanted to make sure that was identified as well, because if it affects people's groundwater and that's all that they have, there's a huge push to spend this money towards
I know who I'm
groundwater.
thinking about, right?
Yeah, but, and there again, I don't mean to sound nasty, but I think if there's an issue, I think those people need to come to us. I don't think we.
That's
No, I
exactly
agree.
it, exactly.
Agreed, but I'm just wondering if we could suggest that, make it known that this is a program that's available. Because,
So,
And there's going to, in my eyes, there's going to be guidelines, because I'm just not going to.
no, exactly.
No,
And that was-
priorities.
Right.
Yes.
right, no,
So-
we're not gonna just hand it out left and right, obviously, but if we
So-
know that there's a person who has been trying and has had issues and multiple.
Yeah.
And
So-
then it's been multiple years and the repairs have not been able to be completed, can we help her out with?
Well, they have been, but.
Is that, just asking, is this something that could be used for?
If it has,
Not just
if it is pending, affecting
other
groundwater.
people or.
Groundwater, right.
Okay,
So, and for a lot of this, I've got over 35 links. Because they've done, I've been to 2 webinars where they've gone through slide decks, they've done questions and answers, and they just throw these links at you, right? So part of this is that we need to do our homework collectively and go through these links and collect this information. I think initially, probably asking Karen to help us get things sorted as we're figuring stuff out. And then when we get to our next Board of Trustees meeting, we'll roll our sleeves up a little bit and get into this new business and figure out what exactly our approach is going to be.
what are the parameters?
Well, I also think from what I was reading, one of the big things that they're pushing with it too is helping families that might have like internet service at the pole, but they don't have the capabilities of getting it to the house. Because there were so many kids that had so many issues last year when COVID shut down the schools.
So-
Right, well, that's a whole other.
There's 2 thrusts with this. One is what they call the middle mile, which is your core infrastructure of getting it down through the roads. And then the last mile is from the pole to the house, right? Their big focus is on the last mile, but they also wanted to make it clear that they would, the middle mile is also needed. You remember when we had to do the stuff with getting the broadband up here?
Right.
It cost, what, $40,000 to extend the broadband just to this building. And it ended up being a benefit for people that lived in the area. But it stopped here.
Right,
There's
and
still
that's-
more that,
That's like my
goes south
grandkids live on heater and it stops at Wood Creek, it doesn't go up.
right.
And if you want it, you have to pay for it to go up.
So part of that, I know in the area we have Frontier and we have Spectrum. One of the things that we can do is reach out to them because I know that they're going to be looking
Oh,
to
yeah.
interface with entities that they know are getting money anyhow and try to flesh out what that looks like for the population of Perry Township.
Right.
We don't currently have a map of where the broadband
No.
is wired through the township. We need to work on getting that.
Okay.
And then that will help us prioritize, because we'll probably have a mix of both middle mile and last mile.
And I think we need to do comparisons on those also, because I've heard a lot of positive and negative things about both Spectrum and Frontier.
Well, and here's the thing is that it doesn't matter who owns the core infrastructure, because I'll just charge the other guy to use it. and then they run it from the pole to the house.
Okay.
So, I mean, at the end of the day, it probably may not even be Spectrum. Spectrum may be using it off of a company like CentralLink or Sprint or
Okay.
T-Mobile or whatever. So, but yeah, we can start digging into that too and finding out what those needs are. And part of this too is that I hate to put a bunch of links out on Facebook, but what I want to do is I want to start chopping these up into smaller, digestible posts and start putting information out there for people to go out there and get informed. Because like Trustee Mears said, we can't be going door to door for this. We need to make sure that the residents are informed and they can come to us, because we're going to already have our hands full with the part that we have to do. So we're going to need that participation and collaboration from the residents to be able to make sure that people who need
Right.
the funding per the guidelines are able to do so. So more to come at the August Board of Trustees meeting on that topic. Is there any other questions? Lots of reading. Okay.
I'm sure I'll have more.
Yes, please.
Since that questions and answers that was sent out with that.
Okay, do you want it back?
I can print another copy.
Okay, thank you.
Will you make me one too? Thank you.
So the next topic was the video conference quotes. So we acquired Township licensing for Zoom because previously that was something I was providing. We weren't able to do that through the CARES Act and didn't have time to kind of work on it. So August Board of Trustees meeting will be the first meeting that will actually be on our Zoom, the Township Zoom.
Okay.
And I'm going to work with Karen. I've already built some videos on how to set things up and everything else. If I can work with Karen to get her informed, then she can work with the trustees and I can work with Charity on it. So we've done that. The next part was actually getting the right kind of configuration for this room. People have said that they can't hear us clearly on the broadcast. We know that. Right now, that's a conference room camera that we're using. It can pick up the audio in this room quite clearly if we project properly. So, but it's not meant for this purpose. It's right now helping us meet an end. The goal that I had was to meet with a couple of different companies that came recommended from other townships, because COVID and the shutdown really opened a lot of people's eyes on how they need to record things more clearly, more efficiently. And our security camera that we have is not meant for that purpose. The software is not meant for that purpose. It cuts up the video into bite-sized pieces. They're bulky and they're not easy to work with. So that said, I talked with a couple of companies. One was Affidence, and the other one was AVI SPL. I provided them pictures, the dimensions of the room, and let them know what we were looking for, which was basically a proper camera for the dimensions of the room, fixed mics, whether they're table fixed mics or ceiling fixed mics, and then left them to fill in the rest of the gaps for what they would provide, whether it was a mixing configuration, a small tablet-like laptop to run the meeting from, or if we would leverage the PC out in the lobby. So ABI ended up doing their quote based on the PC out in the lobby. Affidence did theirs based on a small, I think it was a $500, $300 laptop that's built for doing media. So I didn't make multiple copies, but that's the one from Affidence. And theirs was seemed to be more targeted towards our needs. They weren't looking to make a big sale. You know, they've got Miami Township and others for that. They looked at it as just what we needed to be able to update and provide the proper recording services and management of our meetings for our township. ABI SPL provided 2 quotes, one with follow on, like I think it was a year of maintenance and support, and one without. So I'll give you these 2 and then we'll switch.
Okay.
Just brought it up. So theirs is a lot thicker because they wrote up like what it is that they're gonna do and how they're gonna do it. But the pages right there kind of lay out what the pieces are and the work is.
And we own this equipment or
Yes.
we're leasing?
No, we own this equipment. This is a one-time purchase. And if we have issues, they would support us with it. Like I said, they weren't looking to make a big sale on this. It was just, they figured out what we needed and how to set it up. And I
And
think
which one are you happy with? You're the computer.
I'm happier with the smaller one.
Okay.
Because there was a little bit more conversation. And while the ADI one is like more of the complete solution, this is what we need, how we need it.
Okay.
So to me, I think
Very
that
commercial.
they are, and I was really hard pressed to find companies that do this, because a lot wouldn't even respond to me coming from a township. So, so the 2 quotes here are what we have. This is the one from Access too. So I'll let you guys review those for a couple minutes and then we can discuss if there's any questions, comments or concerns.
And what kind of support would we get from ABI? Would they be a local person or would we have to go through a bunch of robots to get to a human for technical?
So they actually lay that out. Part of this is, I think Karen should have sent you guys these files about a week ago when I got both of them together. So you have to, with the ADI ones, they're very wordy. They're like 25 pages. They really write out what it is that they're gonna do and how they're gonna do it.
Yeah, like room monitoring up to 25 rooms, and that's just for their starter package. That's way beyond anything that.
Well, right, so part of that is boilerplate, right? That's their boilerplate. Here's our proposal. And then a couple pages in, it gets more specific as to this solution.
Okay, this one's what this.
This one is, this one.
Yeah.
Owns the same thing.
Did Charity see that one?
Yes.
Okay.
I just haven't seen.
You saw the evidence
She
one?
didn't see
I
the
did.
one-
Okay.
She didn't see the one.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm more inclined to go with the smaller company than ABI because I'm familiar with ABI and they're really, really big.
Right. Well, and that, to be honest, I always try to get more than 1 quote. I try to get 3. And sometimes you get what you get, right? So.
But like I said, my biggest concern with a company like that that's that big is when you call for support, are you going to get a person on the other end of the phone or are you going to go through
Right.
a zillion people before they answer what you need?
Right, and so what I would ask is that you guys review these documents completely. I kind of hit the high points on
Right.
how they did it and what they did. So then we can also discuss this at the Board of Trustees
Okay.
meeting. Was there any questions on that?
Nope.
Okay. The next one was the web hosting quotes. And I'm gonna explain these as completely as I can as well. So the first one is from iPanda, who came in previously and met with us
Oh,
when
yeah.
we were first talking about doing a website. The other one is Oasis, who does work for Clay, Jefferson, a number of other townships, as well as municipalities and companies, right? So both of them basically will design your website, host your website, set you up with one of them. I think iPanda, they do their own hosting. Oasis does Amazon-based hosting. They both do vanity emails, which is basically what we have with our own domain. I have not yet talked with Host Papa about if we take our website away and we just host mail there, if we could do that, or if we had to pull it off completely. And that's mostly because they're not always as quick to respond when I reach out to them. So,
I've had customer service issues
Yeah.
with them for another organization.
right.
Jason's.
So there's the other one. The big thing here with the web hosting, and this actually, I believe they're both right around the same amount. One is like 1,900 and one is like 1,700, 1,495, thank you. The money person is right on the money.
Makes a difference.
The key here is that we're actually spending a lot of money for our website and social media updates because I do them. And when I do them, all that money has to be charged against the general fund. Now, I'm conservative with my billing, so I don't like really drive the general fund into a big hole every month. But at the same time, it is intensive. It does take time, and it has taken me away from other things, which we knew this going into it, that initially to establish the website, get social media up and everything else, it was going to take a little bit of effort. So now, looking at having a company do this, we basically said that we would look to have this within a 2-year period. Initially, build the website ourselves, get everything up and hosted, figure out what it is we want in the website, what we need, and then start talking with somebody else about doing that for us. Because then we're just flat paying them to do it,
Right.
and we're not incurring the additional cost of the time to do it, right? So with this, I know we've had our issues with some email problems and some hosting issues when they've done some version upgrades of their web editing software. It's to be expected, and luckily it wasn't an insurmountable issue. It took time and was a little bit buggy to deal with. So the goal here is to save the township money and now step down to have somebody else build the website, manage it for us, where we can submit information, and we can also curate our own content and provide it to them to post as part of that website. That'll basically take the burden off a single trustee, put it across multiple trustees, further driving down that cost. The other goal is to, like I said, free me up to do other stuff. There's some projects with the cemeteries that need to be
Yes.
picked up next year, and those are already at the top of my list of stuff that I need to work on. So right now, that's the goal, is to take the next step and have somebody else do this at a lower overall cost for the township and allow us to continue to put information out for the residents while driving down the cost and inherent risk for the township.
Could we have somebody from Oasis come and do a presentation like I've handed it, like along?
They are both willing to come. I wanted to talk with the trustees first in a meeting. And we kind of had to push this out a little bit because we didn't have a working session at the beginning of the month. So if you guys are good with that, I can set up something to have them come to the board of trustees meeting.
Do we need Ilana to come again, or do we need a refresher from what they paid? No, she was.
I mean, if you guys do, I understand what she does. There's nothing new here with what she actually proposed the last time. We just weren't ready to have somebody else do that at that time.
Fresh, but yeah, how much redesigning would they have to do on the webpage that we have? Or would they just take
It's
our
just-
site and change it to
so
they're
here-
the hosting site
Right.
as well?
So here's the rub of the website. The website, Host Papa it's kind of like, if you're familiar with Wix, it's kind of like Wix-ish, right? Where you can pluck modules out and put them in the website, and then you can sit there and put content in them, develop them, configure them, and cobble these modules together to build a website. Initially, there wasn't a whole lot of input as to what we wanted on the website. We talked about it a little bit, and as I was building stuff, then we would review it, and I would say, am I close? Am I hitting the target? Does this look good? And we kind of fleshed out the information that we had. We also had the constraint of keeping the website to 2 pages, because that was part of our package with Host Papa, was that we could only basically develop 2 pages. So we were operating within that constraint to get that website established. And plus we wanted to have something to look at someone else doing this and say, look, this is what we built so far. what else could we look at? I don't know if you guys go out, if the other trustees and fiscal officer go out to other websites for townships.
Oh, yeah.
There's,
And they have a lot more than we do.
well, and there's some that don't. Jefferson doesn't necessarily, Clay doesn't necessarily, German Township definitely doesn't. They're actually, I think their website, they've just been working on that. Yeah, so they've been working on that here in the last 6 months. So,
But some of the older ones that have been around a while.
yeah, they use stuff like Civic Plus or, right. They actually work with companies and they have a team within the township that works with a vendor to do all of that. So they do a lot of automation between their website and different applications, different, Miami Township does their permitting online, right? So you can basically submit a pit permit when it's approved through like a DocuSign kind of workflow, then you can pay for it as well online and be able to use that. We're not there and we're not looking at that right now. But that's something else as we move down the line of looking at different ways to provide those conveniences to the residents of, well, you don't have to necessarily send us a check. You can use, Rumpke's pay system, right? Or we could leverage iWorks' online payment system as part of our contract with them. There's options. So this is just, we're not trying to become uber technically fluent. We're looking at providing value at an affordable cost while driving down risk. And right now, that includes rehosting the website, doing some development, and looking at possibly rehosting our email as well.
And I think that's an important criteria is to make sure whomever it is that sets it up will be able to incorporate taking the trash payment bills online, because there's a lot of people that are asking about that.
They are, and I haven't, to be fair, I haven't included it as a requirement. That's a target in the distance. And that's definitely one that, we need to run down with both like a Rumpke as well as with iWorks, because they both do it. We can actually get that added as a service at a flat rate per payment. I think it's just like a credit card transaction, right? So that's something we can look at. It's like I said, it's in the distance, but it's definitely something that I know the residents have asked about.
Maybe sooner than later, because yes, that is something that, especially since people haven't wanted to either have COVID or haven't wanted to go out, and we've all gotten lazy and changed our ways.
Yeah.
I think that's become a very popular way of making payments for a lot of people. And they can do the automatic pay from checking accounts and.
Well, and that's, I mean, that's another thing that we don't even have to bundle with this. We can basically provide our, the account information and stuff like that and work through LCD to see what we could do for like an online bill pay for residents to be able to send us money that way. So there's a number of options that we can look at there. I've kind of been dropping ideas on Karen every now and then to, hey, when you're on the phone with iWorks, ask them about this, or, when you're talking with Rumpke, ask them how this is coming along, because a number of townships and municipalities do that. So is there any questions on the web hosting quotes?
Will we maintain any control of the web page, or we would?
Yeah,
surrender it?
So they work at our behest. We're paying them to manage it, basically. My criteria to them was that I didn't want to have a need for someone that's technically savvy to be able to maintain a website. I wanted, they both use content management systems, which basically they will walk you through their process and say, you can do enough, you can post something on the website this way, or you can pay this and we'll do it. Right. It really depends on what the township needs and how they want to do it. Most of them are very straightforward. I've talked with other townships that have done it. Oasis, like I said, has a big footprint here locally. And they're actually based out of Broadband. So.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
Any questions? Okay. The next topic was the Office 365 quote. Basically, we need to get Office 365 for the lobby PC that we have now, so that we can manage trustee and other employee email locally on site. That way there's less of a dependence on personal devices. Makes it easier.
I agree.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I knew you would. Basically for this, I went out to Microsoft's government site and I submitted a request for a quote for Office 365. According to the federal acquisition regulations, they can't generate a profit on something that they're selling, like the licensing for Office 365. It's a flat rate.
Yeah.
The money they do make is on bigger orders and it's based on professional services on top for support. So I submitted this. I only received one reply. 2 companies, I believe, said that they weren't interested, which is par for the course in the space. I mean, they just, if it's a one license, you know, they're not going to do it. So the one quote that we did get was from Macalogic, and they are out of Beaver Creek. Their price was $99, which is the flat rate for 1 year of Office 365.
What are we getting quotes from? I mean, for Office 365, you can just get Office 365.
We can, it's more expensive. This is the government rate.
Okay, but why do we have to go through a third party for it?
Because that's how Microsoft sells it in that space. They don't sell it outright to government entities.
Okay,
Yeah.
because it's government, you have
Yeah.
to go through their, okay.
It's kind of like dealing with GSA, right? They have the contracts in place and the partnerships, and basically you throw something out there and if someone responds,
Okay,
that's what you work with. So their quote was $99 a year. They did include a $250 service fee for them to configure the tenant for our use, demonstrate the management portal for the town admin, because most townships have an admin. I would recommend one of the other trustees sit in on that, probably with Karen. And then they would also demonstrate how to add additional licenses if we need it.
And there's no cost on that for additional license.
We would have to pay for additional, like, this is for one license.
Okay,
So I know that we're looking at buying some PCs for the maintenance garage.
yes,
Did not include those because
Okay.
those weren't a sure
Okay,
thing at
gotcha.
that point in time.
that's what I was getting at.
So that's basically what this is.
So $350.
$349 because it's no tax. So. And we have that from Macalogic to review if you'd like to look at the very short one pager. She gave you a copy of the
Yes.
Macalogic? Okay, here's the Macalogic quote. So once again, that'll be something that comes up at Board of Trustees meeting. It'll just be, you know, we'll agree to it if everybody's in concurrence, and then we'll get it out of the way. And that's all that I had for this meeting.
Okay.
I believe the next topic was yours.
Yes, I just want to let you guys know that we had discussed, I had let you guys know that we run into an issue with the internet out of the maintenance garage. So there has been a new warrant issued, so that'll be available for you guys for your review and stuff to make sure that we get that covered. And it is being split now, the way that was decided. I talked with Chief Littleton. He said the initial agreement was that the maintenance, you know, roads and cemetery would cover the cost for the phone service.
Mhm.
And then they would split the cost for the Wi-Fi service 50-50.
Right.
So that has been set up now where 65% of it basically is the breakdown, comes from the roads and bridge, and 35% come out of the police budget.
And you don't know, I don't know nothing about
Right.
it. Okay, so I know Mr. Hoops does not have a computer there. So there's many times he's using his phone. So he's using his own data.
Yeah.
We have the Wi-Fi there. Is there not a
So-
password that he can't sign in on?
So I have the Wi-Fi router. It's all configured. I'm gonna set it up this weekend out.
Okay, good.
All right. The other thing is that I've got an old laptop
Okay,
that I'm gonna set him up with.
Okay.
That he can use until we get everything worked out with Firehouse Grant.
okay,
Because we weren't sure how long that was gonna take.
Right.
And he found a PC out in the garage. And
yes,
it still had Windows XP on it, and I tried to load Linux on it to just give a simple interface, and it wouldn't work. So I'm gonna give him one of my old laptops to use.
Okay.
It'll be clear, and I'll initially set up the Wi-Fi out there in the office. We'll have to find a place probably in the middle bay to put it up
okay.
away ways with a power supply and figure out the distance so that we can get the right cabling for it to provide full coverage of the garage. But he will have something by the end of the weekend. So I'm gonna go out there and set that up.
And if no one has any objections, I may call CTC because I know in the past, we used to give the seniors laptops, Acers. And if there's any left, sometimes they would let you buy them for like $50.
Right.
I can contact him and see. I don't know. I mean, if you're in, would that help Caleb or no, or?
I think so they just need something out there.
Yeah. And I can't guarantee, I don't even know if they do that program anymore, but
It would be a good thing to know because I've said before that it would probably be good for the trustees to have devices.
yes.
So that they're not using personal devices,
Right.
right? So if we could get like a handful of systems that they're no longer using, I think we would find uses for
Okay,
them.
I can
So,
So you can also reach out to the schools, because I know like with Dixie, you can buy the Chromebooks.
Yeah.
When they take them out of service.
Yes.
And it's like $5 or $10.
Oh, okay. See, that's what they used to do over there at
I
school.
think it would be really
And-
helpful for Ms. Kaler as well to have
Yeah,
a laptop.
because she takes a lot of her stuff home.
Right.
But if they might even be interested in donating them, you
right,
know, I don't know. I
yeah.
can,
Well, and the key with what we're acquiring through the grant is basically make sure that we have both printing services
Right.
as well as a PC in the Bay Area as well as
Right.
in the office. So, yeah, any more information we get on that would
Okay,
probably be
that'd be
really
great.
good.
I'll reach out to him.
And did we ever solve the mystery of the password for the computer up front?
So
I don't know.
I put stuff in your drawer, in each trustee's drawers with, basically it's your email password to get on there.
I have no idea what that is. Which email password? For our Outlook?
Yeah.
email?
Yes.
Yeah. So I basically created an account for both you trustees on there.
Okay.
And Caleb actually used it, I think, the other night. I told him just use trustee Mears' account.
I think he was on it today.
Yeah, so he logged on to it. So, because I printed out something because I also answered questions. So if you have an issue logging in, you answer the questions a certain way and it'll let you in.
Okay.
So if you don't have those, I can look, I
Okay.
have copies of those, I can
Okay.
re-provide those.
Gotcha.
If you would send me another one, because I know I have it and
Right.
I used it and I still couldn't get on and.
I'll
Well, he
put
said
it,
he put it in your mailbox.
Yeah,
That
I
was,
put it in
no,
your
that was a
drawer.
long time ago, yeah.
So I'll put it in your drawer.
Okay.
That's fine. We'll take care of that. That was all the topics for.
So that was everything that we had to cover.
Mhm.
Okay. Anybody else have any work topic questions? Okay, I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Oh, wait a minute.
Oh, wait, sorry. Hi.
So maintenance garage is kind of the same as my shop as well. We don't have we don't have a desktop anymore. Everybody just uses tablets. It's far more user friendly. Just another option.
Right.
So
Yeah, the one concern is that, you get a tablet, it has to be ruggedized. You don't want to drop it in a shop area because things get dropped in shops. So initially when we were working with chief on, because they're getting PCs for the police department, and we piggybacked on that. With a single screen system that basically has the computer embedded in the back of the monitor, and then a desktop system for the back office. The goal was that they didn't have that requirement to basically carry anything. They just wanted systems.
Good.
So at that point in time, we piggybacked on the police department's grant and to try to get them something out there. All right.
Good question. Thank you very much. Anybody else?
Okay, and I make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll second.
Trustee Hartshorn,
Yes.
trustee Mears,
Yes.
trustee Wynn.
Yes.